Come on in. It's the real Kyper and Bourne show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, Jen Rolnick for the next 2 hours. Once again, as I always tell you, we are live and in color. Sportsnet 590 also on the platform, Sportsnet 360 and Sportsnet Plus from 4 to 6. And wherever you get your podcasts, if you can't catch us live, and text us 590 throughout the week, today, tomorrow. Let us know your thoughts. A lot of development in the hockey world in the last 24 hours. The latest report, of course, 5 players told to surrender in connection with the 2018 World Junior investigation. The 5 players have been told by London Police Services to surrender in connection with allegations of a sexual assault in June 2018 on a woman by members of the 2018 Canadian World Junior Hockey Team. This was, of course, reported by the Globe and Mail. And anything further, you can go to sportsnet.ca as this story develops. Lots of speculation out there, JB, in terms of social media and the media. Of course, people wanting to have questions answered, like who, what, where, when, and how. Mm-hmm. That's what we're not going to do that because we don't know what we don't know.
Not our place, yeah.
Right now, it's just not our place. But let me just ask you this. This has been a really long investigation to the point where people were just starting to conclude that like nothing was going to come out of this.
Right.
So how surprised or shocked are you or hockey fans right now that this is now gone to where it is?
Well, I don't know, Kip, because I don't know how common the knowledge would have been, or the sentiment that this was just going to kind of go away at some point. Like I didn't really know what to make of it. And it did sound obviously like something serious, happened. And we're talking back in 2018 and it was still coming up fairly regularly. So I guess I wasn't shocked to see that at the end of the day that there's some follow-up. I expected follow-up at some point, whether in the form of a report from the league or from the London police or whatever. By the way, the London police are having a press conference February 5th to update people on sort of what's going on here. But yeah, I mean, this is serious business. And I think the fact that it's moving along is a positive step for the victim and for everyone who's kind of had this hanging over their head. Time to get some answers and get some closure for people.
Closure, Sammy, it sounds like it's just the start.
Yeah.
It's just the beginning, unfortunately. But at least...
Got to start to finish.
You got to start it at some point here.
I heard Merrick say that it was the beginning of the start or the end of the start. Like, it feels like we're now into the sort of meat of it.
Right.
Like, it's about to kind of happen here. And we don't really know any of the details or whatever. And I'm sure on February 5th, which is not this following Monday, it's the Monday following
pretty
that.
Big punt.
Yeah,
for an update, but
2 weeks or a week and a half. And then they'll have a press conference. And I don't know if we'll get names then or what we'll get then. But it's a big story. And it's not going to, we're just at the start here. Tip of the iceberg, fellas.
And I think it's probably, I shouldn't say I think it's serious business for the players who are involved and whatever. Like there's going to be fallout from this.
Mm-hmm.
Just to officially read what the London police put out. This was earlier today. We understand that there's a significant public interest in relation to a sexual assault investigation dating back to 2018. While we are unable to provide an update at this time, we anticipate that the London Police Service will hold a press conference on Monday, February 5th, 2024, to share further details. That, of course, will come after the All-Star break. And I'm not here to tell you by any means that the timing sucks for the NHL because justice deserves justice 24/7, and it's
There's
not
never
about
be a good time.
A good time or a bad time. But man, this has a chance to. I hope it doesn't overshadow all the great things, though. Unfortunately, that so many people were planning on NHL All-Star Weekend, but how can it not be a distraction?
Well, I think it's part of the conversation around the NHL right now. There's no doubt that it will continue to be over the weekend.
And Gary usually has a presser at All-Star Weekend, doesn't he?
Sure.
So
that's a great point, too.
Yeah, it'll be led by questions about this, but I think it's about time that you start getting some answers on this, and that he's probably held to the fire a little bit on it, too. So.
And I also think, his point in that presser is probably going to be that there has to be, or, that they would like there to be a divide between something serious that they're dealing with and all the fans of the NHL who want to watch the greatest players play hockey, and they don't, I'm sure Gary's goal will be to sort of create that separation from it on the weekend. We'll see if he's successful or not, but that certainly will be the goal.
Okay. Once again, sportsnet.ca for the latest on this developing story. The Toronto Maple Leafs got a huge back-to-back. The Winnipeg Jets starting tonight on Wednesday Night Hockey here on Sportsnet.
Big night.
Where do these two games lie for you in terms of importance of where this team goes after the All-Star break?
I'm going to say these are huge, huge hockey games for them. I really do believe that. Like they've kind of been doing this sort of tightrope walk of, hey, is the bottom falling out on this thing, right? Like there was the 4 losses in a row and they played some very good teams in Western Canada, but they beat the teams they were supposed to beat. If you follow that up now, though, with a couple of losses and you've got 4-game losing streak, 2-2, another 2 losses, it's probably bad vibes for this Leafs team. But you go out there and you beat a very good Jets team who's currently first in the Central. I think you can feel good about yourself. And in terms of momentum and, God, getting things going in the right direction, I think these are big games.
Yeah, you said, was it yesterday or the day before, that this could be a fork in the road moment? And when you talked to me about that, I thought, it's 2 games, Kyper. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. But the more I've been thinking about it, I think there might be something to that. Like, if they lose both these games, and not in embarrassing fashion or whatever, just 2 losses. Yeah. Potentially 0 points out of this. I feel like we're right back to square one with that 4-game losing streak with the heat around everything in this team. Like, it's everything. Yeah. And if you get 3 out of 4 points in this stretch, or you God forbid, get 4 points out of this stretch, we're back. Like, the parade's back on, baby. Like, we're back. Right? Like, I really feel
we beat a good team.
Yeah,
a road trip.
I do feel like it is a big time swing moment for everyone involved here.
And with the All-Star game here and everyone talking around Toronto,
they go in with like the low momentum. They just lost the Jets. They're a pretender.
Yeah.
Oh, they beat one of the best teams in the league twice in a row.
It's like they've got to figure it out.
You go and do something like this.
Exactly.
And totally redeem yourself.
When I thought, when you said that,
that's a great line. I love that movie.
When you said that before, I thought you were being a little bit sports talk radio hosty with that question. Yeah. But the more I've thought about it over the last 48 hours, I think you're right. I actually do think it's a massive 2 games for them. And you have to think about this for 2 weeks.
I know.
And
this
next game's
Jets
February
team
5th.
is the exact thing they haven't been able to beat in the playoffs. It's the best defensive team in the NHL. They've given up the fewest goals on the year. They don't give up slot shots, cycle chances, no rush chances. First in the NHL at limiting rush chances. Go ahead. That's a playoff caliber team here for the Leafs to measure themselves.
You're playing the West Panthers, basically.
You are. That's exactly right.
We're going to talk to Ken Wiebe in about 20 minutes. Winnipeg Jet writer for the Winnipeg Free Press, co-host of the Ken and Rennie Show. He'll have greater detail on what is making the Winnipeg Jets tick. The feeling is Mark Scheifele won't be on the lineup tonight. Oh, no. He didn't take a regular shift, I think.
He wasn't in the line. He was the extra in the line rushes today at morning skate.
Yeah.
So
he's not going to get to do his favorite thing.
Lardy's also may be out. Maybe the Leafs will catch a break there.
And they're at home tonight. Like, if you're going to get one of the 2, this would be the one.
So let's go to Sheldon Keefe for our first Kyper's Clipper of the day on what it's going to take to beat these mighty Jets.
Yeah, just getting to their net, getting access to the net, getting access to the zone. They also do a lot of really good things on offense too. So they're good with the puck and they put pressure on you in your own zone. So just 2 teams that are going to be fighting for possession and territory through the game, and then looking to gain access to the net. And special teams, of course, would be a big factor too.
I mean, I don't agree that they do a ton of great stuff on offense, but
The Jets?
yeah. They're
Where are their
Expand.
numbers?
They're 12th in the NHL in goals for, 14th in expected goals for, but they're 24th in high danger chances. Like they're not creating these like grade A's.
So what are
every
they?
single
They're
night.
just wearing you down.
Yes. Deep, put the pucks deep, cycle. The third line of Niederreiter, Appleton, and Lowry is unbelievable. Like they're heavy and they can finish and they're really solid. But they, Kyle Connor can score, Perfetti can score, but none of them are Matthews, Marner, and Nylander.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
Not very good.
Mid.
Mid on offense, best in the universe at defense.
Yeah. And having the best goal in
And
the league
goaltending
helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go to Sheldon Keefe on the back-to-back. And, I mean, we've kind of stipulated what we feel is a fork in the road back-to-back. Let's hear from Sheldon.
You get these in the schedule. They're kind of rare, but I do think they're nice to have. Especially this week here, the way that it is with leading up to break, and I think it's good. And as I referenced earlier, the North Division, you got a lot of that, and I thought it was really good and fun, and it brought some extra intrigue and interest from our perspective or my perspective at a time when we weren't playing in front of fans and stuff like that. To have the full buildings added to the whole, to add it to everything, I think is great. So we're looking forward to competing against one of the league's best here.
Yeah, those games were greasy.
Yeah.
The Jets and Leafs, they really, by the end of that North Division thing, hated each other. And if the Leafs hadn't blew it against the Montreal Canadiens in the first round that year, it would have been them and the Jets in the second round. And that would have been excellent. It would have been an excellent
Would
series.
have been really great.
Yeah. But the Leafs had other plans.
They leafed it up.
Yeah.
We can go back
They
to
invited the poor nurses to that game 7. And
That's right.
They were like,
Remember
they're
the
like,
midst
come
of
on
the
in,
pandemic?
nurses.
They tortured all the people who were going through hell.
They're like, nurses,
yeah.
there's one thing that you guys have earned over this pandemic. It's a game 7 in Toronto. Come on in.
Oh, I forgot.
So we can go back to Jason Spetz's shift where he went after Pionk.
Yeah.
You need him in the head, right?
Yeah, flying knee to the brain.
Like, have we got a chance to see any of that type of emotion between these two hockey clubs? And are the Leafs as best prepared? Because I've seen a very feisty Jake McCabe. There's Benoit, who seems like a gamer. There's Max. There's no Bertuzzi tonight, and we'll touch on that coming up. But if there's a chance for this to be an emotional one, or are the Leafs kind of prepared tonight?
I don't know, Kip, you've been watching them for a lot of years. Do you think that's their strength?
But I'm the host here, and I'm asking the questions.
Okay, then my answer is no. I don't think they're well prepared.
All right, okay.
No,
I tried to throw
answer.
something out there.
Yeah, no,
They're going to have to outskill them.
Yes. Well, it's been a year-long theme is, you have encouraged, and I think they've been encouraged internally to have that bit of feistiness, and it shows up here and there, and it's pretty good, but it's not a strength of the team by any stretch.
I'm just really liking.
I hope you're right.
I'm only basing that off of, in all honesty, McCabe.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen him the last week crunch guys, hit Zach Hyman. I don't know if Zach Hyman's been ever hit that hard in a game.
That was devastating because Hyman's a heavy guy.
No, I agree. He demolished him.
I'm like, okay, Jake, need that tonight.
But see, when you see this from these guys, like when you saw Nyes do it, it doesn't mean that they're now heavyweights or something. Like, they have these moments.
Why is it in my era, like when guys did that, you had to do it again, and you had to do it again, and you had to do it again?
Why?
Why didn't I get 10 nights off of not fighting or not hitting somebody really hard or not pissing somebody off? Why are these guys off the hook if they don't do it for a week or 10 days?
I guess it's role definition. Like, I don't think of Jake McCabe as a guy whose role is to create energy and hit. He plays 21 minutes a night. They need him to play D.
No, they need him to piss people off.
I mean, if the coach believes that that's what they want him to do, I think if they had better defensemen, honestly, if they had better defensemen, you say, McCabe, you're a third pair guy. You're going to play 17 minutes, and we want you to we want that to be a part of your life.
I'm just looking at this lineup, and I can't say I love the look of it going against the Jets tonight. And I don't think there's a ton of guys that are going to do it. You just I guess the only option would be, like you said, McCabe, but then I guess Domi, like you said. But outside of that, it's just not going to happen.
We saw Nyes do it once, and can it happen again? Bobby McMahon, did he fight someone, or did he kind of fight someone?
He did. He hammered somebody and got kicked out of the game for a clean hit, and then he fought. Who did he fight?
Yeah, it was Mintyukov that he hit. So in Anaheim.
And then he fought somebody out. Oh, it wasn't Gudas. No, I forget who it was that he fought, but he fought somebody. So there you go. But I don't know. If you're gonna, your fourth line tonight is McMahon, Camp, Gregor. If you're ever gonna throw the dog a bone for Reeves, tonight would be the night. You got
Nyes, Holmberg, Robertson on the left side above you too.
McCann's gonna give you those 7 wonderful minutes that you're gonna play him anyway. You're barely gonna play your fourth line.
Anything happen with Ryan Reeves? Oh yeah, Bertuzzi's still away, so nothing has to happen. My bad.
Tyler Bertuzzi, expecting his second child, will not play tonight. So he's off the roster temporarily.
Which, have you ever heard of that before?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maternity leave.
Brandon Pridham is unbelievable. I think it would be paternity leave.
Did you say?
Oh, what did I say? Maternity.
Maternity.
Yeah. Anyways,
he's having a baby.
Yes. Yeah. They nailed this timing.
We had a baby eats a boy.
They nailed the timing.
Another opportunity for Nick Robertson. Let's get Sheldon Keefe's thought on him in and out of the lineup.
Yeah, I think he's handled it really well, which is important, and I've talked to him about that as a young guy, that you need to a couple of things. You need to keep a good attitude. You need to continue to work. You need to wait for your opportunities. And when your opportunity comes, you need to show that the time without playing hasn't impacted your game and how you haven't lost your rhythm. You haven't lost your ability to come in and make an impact. Because once that happens, well, especially when you're a player without waiver protection, you end up in the American League and you're playing and then we bring you up when you're ready. But he's handled himself very well here, and he has shown, as you say, when we've put him in, that he gives us a bit of a spark, and it doesn't seem to have affected, if anything, the time and the less of a workload in terms of the games. When he comes in, he, like I talked about the other night, comes in on a back-to-back and gives us a jolt of energy.
I really like how they've handled Nick Robertson this year. I don't think they're getting enough credit for that. They could yo-yo him between the minors and NHL and whatever, but they haven't. And I think if you demote him this year, you make him look like not an NHL player. And you want, we've mentioned trying to increase his trade value if he is an asset. I also think getting him in the mindset where you're a young player, you're going to be in and out of the lineup. That's just kind of part of your role. And so you got to kind of roll with the punches and be ready to go when it's your turn. That's great. I think they've kind of given him the best chance to succeed this season possible.
Listen,
there's a lot of people that would not agree with that.
I know that.
There's a lot of people would not agree with that.
But what do they think should happen?
To be fair,
be them.
I agree.
But what do they think should happen?
That he should be getting more opportunity higher up in the lineup because he's not necessarily given a chance to produce at the level he should be able to produce at. If he's playing higher in the lineup with better players, and they think that there's something there.
Gotta be nice to be able to just turn a blind eye to panicking with the puck and turning it over. And
I have painted myself into a corner I do not want to be painted in.
I know.
I think that that opinion is one that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily agree with.
I agree with you that it exists out there.
Okay.
Whatever the case is, however you see him, you cannot deny that in the games and the opportunities that he's had, he has proven himself that he can score in this league.
Absolutely. He's on a 25-goal pace if he played 82 games.
Is it that high?
Yeah, he's 7 goals in 27 games or something.
He's, 7 goals in 27. Yeah, perfect. And that would probably get you right around there. So that there's value there. The only question is how much value if you want to move him at the trade deadline, or do you envision him eventually being a top 6 scorer for your respective club?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not sure they know.
No. And also I think there's lots of guys who could give you the goal total we're talking about if you could put up with flaws and faults.
Yeah.
You know, like you could Kaliev and on LA not do that or, you know, whatever. It's just you don't get to play if you can't do other things too. You can't just shoot it in sometimes.
He's got to be so excited to hear that Bertuzzi's having a second child because
he's happy for his teammate.
No, he wants he's getting his ice time tonight. It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
Baby, or you pulled a groin, it's all the same to me. Yeah. I'm coming in. I want your ice time. I want to prove to everybody that I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf and I can play top 6. He's going to get that opportunity, and he's going to get it not against San Jose or Seattle.
Yeah.
He's going up against a big, strong, contending hockey club tonight.
That's a bummer for him.
If he shows well, he goes to another level.
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity for him.
He's such a good shooter. If he could just trust that, like, when the chances come, and they'll come, you know, you'll be able to show that, but you can't force plays. Like, just make the right play until it's time. You know, and it's really tough to be that patient, and it's something he's still working on, I'm sure.
And that patience, when you get
like 10 minutes,
and when you get a game a week, it's hard to show that patience. It's like the puck lands on his stick anywhere near the net. He's like, I'm firing this one, baby. Like, I got to show what I can do.
Yeah.
So,
very true.
Bertuzzi is going to miss his first game of the year. He was on pace for 11 goals this season. Like,
is that true?
Yeah.
Is there anybody that maybe could use a break, I guess?
I don't think it's much of a break.
Well, it gets you away from
hockey.
It gets you thinking about your wife, your family, your child. Like, what has happened here with Bertuzzi here?
Hopefully, he gets the Fred VanVleet bump. Was it Fred VanVleet that got won them the championship after his first child was born? Hopefully, that's what you get.
Got hot.
Has he? I'm going to throw something at you. You tell me yes or no. Has he been underutilized?
Well, he started with Matthews and Marner for the first 10 games or something like that, and didn't produce. Since then, he's been on a line with Tavares and Marner, Tavares and Nylander. I guess the only point I would imagine you're making is no power play time.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And you've thrown this out a couple of times. He led the Boston Bruins in scoring in the playoffs last year. Like, that's what people were expecting.
Mm-hmm.
He had, I think he had 11 points in 7 games.
5 goals.
Yeah. And how many?
26 PIMs. What was going on?
And how many points in the playoffs came off a power play?
Do you know?
Yes.
And how many points was it total? 11?
Yeah, he actually had 10. 5 and 5 for 10.
So I would say, I was going to say 5.
Half.
5 power play points, yeah.
So, this is a guy that needs power play time. He's had it. He had it in Detroit. He had it with Boston briefly.
Yeah.
And he virtually has none of it now. Because the big boys continue to swallow it all up.
But it's one of those things where it's like you do have John Tavares, who throughout his career has been elite. I think he was top 5 in playoff points last year with 38 power play points. 38 power play points. It was like half the games he would get one.
Yeah, but that was last year.
Yes, and he had huge goal totals there too. And I understand that was also last year. But it's really hard to then be like, hey, this guy who didn't do it as well as you is going to take those minutes.
That's why, to me, they have enough to do 2 capable power play units where you create a little competition, you put one on for a minute, you take them off, as opposed to the 5 guys going out there with zero urgency, where they know they're out there for the full 2 minutes.
They have created no internal power play competition.
I know.
And I said, I think yesterday, that Bertuzzi, it might be time to move Tavares off there, because I've thought about this recently, too. Do you think it should happen?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
It's one of those conversations where you want Tavares to get back going, and that's one of the places he does it. So do you want to rob him of the opportunity of finding it? But at some point, you're just rewarding a lack of success. So,
yeah, and I think Bertuzzi, we've talked about a lot of his skills. A lot of them are very conducive to power plays. where he's good at whacking it in front of the net, like what he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Hasn't been great this year, but he's good at passing in tight area.
Yeah.
Tips and all that sort of stuff. That's supposed to be his bag of tricks. So maybe they could let him dive into those tricks. But I don't know. It's been pretty underwhelming for Bertuzzi. It's hard to watch some nights right now.
It really is. And I just think, like, he took a chance on the Leafs. The Leafs took a chance on him for sure. But if he knew that he'd hardly see a power play all year, would he have still signed here?
I'm going to say yes, just because how do you look at who they have and go, that's a great power play opening? You know, like don't you think? Like, he's aware of who was here when he signed, but I get your point that it's not, you think at some point you're going to get some run. The other thing I was thinking of is he hasn't gone back to Bertuzzi with Matthews and Marner. And when he first got here, a lot's new, right? Systems new, coaches new, learning how to play with elite players is new. It's been 40-some games. We're probably due to see if he can handle it a little better than Nyes has, aren't we?
I think at this point in their season, with their inconsistencies, that everything should be wide open.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But there is that feeling for some of these guys, and I'll include Max Domi and Yarncroc a little bit, and for sure Bertuzzi, that there's just Team A and Team B.
We're back here, baby.
Right?
Yeah.
They just don't seem like a cohesive group. It's like Marner, Nylander, and Matthews, and then everybody else.
Do you guys want fun stats?
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say that there was one thing, if there was one thing the new coach, another thing would do that would blow everybody away, it would be the 2 power play units.
Yeah, for
that
sure.
everyone would be like, oh.
So, percentage of points for the Toronto Maple Leafs that have been scored by the core four over the years. So going back to 2018-19, they had 48% of the total points for the team were scored by the core four. Then it was 54.1.
It's climbing.
It's
55.1, 55.1, 59.6, 61.6 is where we're currently
that
at.
number should be going down the better your team
going the
gets.
wrong way.
That's
You're-
crazy.
61.6% of the Leafs' points this year have come from 4 players. That ain't good.
Don't get hurt either, guys.
It's not good.
Well, exactly.
Then what?
Yeah.
Well, I guess you're just
Then
getting
maybe
guys.
someone gets an opportunity and finds
Yeah.
themselves.
All right, should we go to
Yeah,
break,
let's hit a
or do you
for-
want
let's hit a
to?
break for Ken. Let's hit a
Okay,
break.
we'll take a break.
Yep.
And then when we come back, Ken Wiebe will join us, and we'll get into what the Leafs can expect tonight against the Winnipeg Jets. It's Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee just warming up on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. After these words. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee as we get ready. Toronto Maple Leafs and the Winnipeg Jets battle in what will be a back-to-back home-and-home series Saturday night back in Winnipeg. It's kind of strange that they went out to the West and they come home and then they got to go back out there.
But you know what? Being from the actual West,
Canada's pretty big. It's not that part of it.
I was gonna say, it's strange to me that people in Toronto think of Winnipeg as like
The West.
It's just like
No.
It's driving distance. You can drive it. Just drive
I've
north and
always
turn west.
considered it like West.
It's like right here to me. To me, it's way east from BC.
Oh my God, it's like close. It's like 3 extra hours on a plane to Vancouver.
All right, let's welcome in Ken Wiebe. Does a great job covering the Winnipeg Jets as they get set to battle the Toronto Maple Leafs. Weebs, how are you, pal? Thanks for joining us.
Tremendous, guys. Thanks for having me. And Kyper, Winnipeg is almost essentially in the center of Canada. Just so that we're
We're
aware.
having a hot geography debate.
We are proudly from the West, though.
I think I got a 52 in grade 9, and that may explain a lot of things, Weebs. Listen, no Scheifele tonight. Still sounds like he's not going to play, and I get the depth of this team now and where they are in the standings, but still a little thin to me up the middle of the ice after you get away from the offense of Scheifele. What does this mean, I think, for tonight? Can the Leafs take advantage of a no Scheifele team?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a huge loss for them, and then compounded by Gabriel Velarde being out. So 2/3 of the top line, essentially. Vladislav Domestikov is a Rick Bowness favorite dating back to the Dallas days. So he's done an exceptional job since moving up into that second line center role. Tonight he'll be in a top line role. And although technically Adam Lowry would be your third line center, but they technically are the second line in terms of being over the boards. And Rick Bowness would love to get him out against Austin Matthews as much as he can. But yeah, I mean, as we're approaching March, the Jets, history has shown they haven't been afraid to go out and get a second line center when they felt they've needed one. And I would say that between that and maybe another defenseman, it's kind of a toss up between what they'd be looking for. But in terms of the matchup tonight, yeah, certainly that would be an area if you're Sheldon Keefe, you'd want to try to exploit. But I would say at the same time, the Jets have done an exceptional job with their depth and playing four lines, and even they haven't been afraid to have their fourth line against tough competition this year. And that's been one of the reasons they are where they are this year.
Ken, the Jets having just gone 34 straight games, giving up 3 or fewer goals. The Toronto Maple Leafs have done that 21 times, given up 4 or more goals.
What gives tonight?
So, yeah, you've got a very different stylistic matchup. What is it about this Jets defense that's so smothering? Because I look at the core and it's not the D core. It's not 6 Norris winners. It seems to be a complete team thing.
Yeah, it really is, Borny. And I would say this. I think that the Jets have kind of embraced what Sheldon has wanted the Leafs to embrace probably for about 4 years. And maybe they've shown some signs, especially in terms of the back pressure. But the Jets have been really, structured and committed all year long. And as you mentioned, I mean, the Jets have heard all of the stories and the comments about, the lack of, high-end talent beyond Josh Morrissey on the back end. And they've sort of embraced that as a 5-man unit. And it's been at the core of their success. Yes, the goaltending has been exceptional, elite. Connor Hellebuck has been elite. Laurent Brossoit has been excellent in the 11 starts that he's had. And it's a testament to the goaltending, but also they've made the goalies' lives a little bit easier in terms of having knowing where the shots are coming from, and that's been so critical to both goaltenders, especially. And we know all the talk about the Leafs goaltending situation, guys. I mean, Laurent Brossoit is going to be a UFA at the end of the year, so I would say I'm not saying this is how Brossoit is looking at it, but I mean, I would think that there would be interested parties on both sides about how this kind of marquee matchup under the lights in the center of the hockey universe goes in terms of maybe a potential off-season scenario, maybe to have a Joseph Wall with a guy like Brossoit who has won a cup and probably pushing to be in more of a 1A situation than he has been, where he's been a clear-cut number 2 here with the Jets.
Why has this blue line worked the way it's had this season, Ken, in your opinion? I looked at it and I said, at the beginning of the season, I think they need to get bigger, they need to get tougher, but no, it doesn't appear that that's played a factor in any of that we've seen.
Yeah, I'd say, Kyper, I mean, Josh Morrissey having another, Norris kind of worthy consideration season. We know that a lot of the talk has been around Makar and Hughes, and rightfully so, and we know Dobson's taken a big step this year, but Josh Morrissey right in the thick of that. In terms of his ability to drive play from the back end. He's really elevated his game under Rick Bowness. And a big thing too, guys, we talked last year about the struggles of Neil Pionk. His rebound has been an exceptional story, but in terms of the hockey side, in terms of getting his legs back, but also on the human emotional side with, Adam Johnson being one of his best friends and having to go through that tragedy. I'm not saying that's the reason why, but he's found solace on the ice and really elevated his game. Brendan Dillon has been outstanding, and Dylan Sandberg is kind of one of those under-the-radar players on a third pairing that has really grown into kind of a shutdown guy, really good on the penalty kill, and that's allowed Nate Schmidt to just be the number 6 guy. And yeah, I mean, we talk about depth, and the Jets have Ville Heinola just back with the Manitoba Moose. He would have been in the opening day roster. We'll see what happens there, but yeah, I mean, you guys have been talking about Chris Tanev as a fit for Toronto, and as a guy who played for the Manitoba Moose coming out of college. I would say Chris Tanev would be a guy that should be at or near the top of the Jets' wish list coming into March as well. I think he'd be an absolutely perfect fit. He's played in Winnipeg before. His brother Brandon played with the Jets, obviously. So, but overall, the defense corps has been very committed. Really, much improved on the exit side of the puck. That had been an area that they had some issues with the last couple of years. Physically, Brendan Dillon would be the biggest banger. Pionk is competitive, and then Sandberg's a guy who. isn't overly physical, but he's a big, strong, sturdy guy that it's always been part of his game, whether it's in World Junior or in those Frozen Four championships with the University of Minnesota Duluth. I think he'll take on more of a physical element as he becomes more and more comfortable at the NHL level.
So the Jets have been in a position like this in the past, and they've had kind of a tail off in the second half of the season. But, I wrote about the Jets a bit today, and it just feels like the vibes are different with this Jets team. Like, it just seems I do have to ask, do you think some of that is no Wheeler, no Dubois? Do you think it's like the leaders and the big personalities are not here? Okay, is that related to it, or is that just a total outsider take?
Yeah, I think it's fair to a degree. I think Blake was a great captain for the Jets for a good portion, but I think that the vibes are different, and I think that I wouldn't say that Blake himself was a dark cloud necessarily, but I would say is that there is a little bit more empowerment throughout the lineup,
Sure.
which is happening. I would say that Blake is a very dialed-in, intense individual, and this is a group that, although they can be intense when it's game time, they're a group that likes to have a lot of fun, and it feels like they're just coming to the rink, with a little taking that into consideration, where they're enjoying themselves more. And hey, let's not kid ourselves. Winning is fun at any level, so it's easy to have fun when you're winning. The Jets have done an exceptional job of only having one 3-game losing streak this year. So, they've dealt with a lot of different kind of adversity. I mean, Rick being away to deal with Judy's health situation, Scott Arniel taking over basically as interim head coach, and, weren't sure if he was coming back or not. So they've dealt with their share of adversity. Gabriel Velarde, Kyle Connor, now Mark Scheifele. They've had injuries to deal with, but the mood around the team has definitely been positive. And yeah, part of that is due to winning, but I think it's also a group that's, feel like every player on the team feels like they're important. And I think that's something that the coaching staff has done an exceptional job of. And Kyper, it's a huge difference if you're on that fourth line playing 454 or 11 minutes, right? I mean, you feel like you're part of it when you're playing double digits every night, rather than just kind of being out there to hold water and hope you don't get scored on. And, that's where you see a guy like Morgan Barron up to 8 goals already this year. I mean, wow. Those guys have made a contribution this year. And like I said, I think it's again, their group is having a lot of fun. And I mean, in the years past, Borny, to your point, it sort of felt like fool's gold a little bit, right? I mean, they were playing a brand that they were getting results, but it wasn't necessarily going to be sustainable when the games got tougher, like coming out of the All-Star break, the way it will be. So to me this year, their team is based on 5-on-5, exceptional play in that regard. Their special teams needs improvement. Penalty kill's been better, but power play has really struggled, and they've tweaked things a little bit with Nikolai Ehlers and Neil Pionk switching units for tonight. But overall, their 5-on-5 game has been the foundation of their success, and that's why I think it's highly unlikely that they have a nosedive like they did last year.
We're talking to Ken Wiebe, covers the Winnipeg Jets for the Winnipeg Free Press, also co-host of the Kenny and Rennie Show. So prior to the bodies moving in, moving out, re-signing of star players, we can go back to the elimination playoff where Rick Bowness tore a strip off a hockey club like I've seldom seen any coach do publicly. Yeah. And I'm wondering, with those words, I think we had no pushback. Is that where the true turnaround started? If we connect the dots here, Ken, does it go back to that press conference?
Well, I mean, I would just say it even goes back further, Rick, or Kyper. And I mean, the reason why Rick was so disappointed in the group is because they had shown him for the first 50 games that they could play that committed style, and they totally abandoned it in the second half. And yeah, I mean, the words were very direct. But I think the thing that Rick has done an exceptional job of, guys, is he's shown his players that it comes from a position of caring. He wasn't lighting them up for the sake of embarrassing them publicly. He was just disappointed because he had seen them at their best, and he knew that the way they played in Game 1 against Vegas, had they played that way, maybe things go a little bit differently. But, some players definitely had their feathers ruffled, to take another Jets term from years past. But at the same time, I think when they went home in the summertime and sort of kind of looked in the mirror and said, well, Rick is right. And that's what we've seen, that sort of turnaround in terms of the commitment, because they know that it worked. They were like, let's not forget, last year in January 16th, that team was also first in the West and then barely hung on for the 8th playoff spot. So I think they had a little bit of extra scar tissue. And yeah, you're right. I mean, Kyper, by the time I turned around to grab the microphone from Jeff Hamilton, Rick was already off the podium. It was pretty unbelievable there at T-Mobile Arena, but it was one of those things where it wasn't the volume of words, but it was the ability to deliver them in a direct manner. But I think the Jets have done a really good job of sort of seeing what they were missing in years past. And let's not forget, guys, 5 different forwards in that group this year. Started the trade deadline last year. Nino Niederreiter, Vladislav Nemestikov, very strong two-way players that go to the blue paint. Alex Iafallo, playoff experience, very diligent defensive player. Gabriel Velarde, very conscientious. And even Rasmus Kapari, a first-round pick who is also a pretty good two-way guy, hasn't found his offensive legs, but when you basically almost overhaul half of the forward group, it's not a surprise if you look at the personnel they brought in that they've been better defensively.
Well, and maybe these are related, that's related to this question here, but I'm looking at Mark Scheifele's stats this year. Last season he scores 42 times. This year he's on pace for 27. But last year, he's 26 assists. This year, he's already passed that. So he's got way more assists than goals this year, which is complete opposite of last year. Previous 2 seasons, he's minus 17, minus 18. This year, he's plus 18. So he seems like a totally different hockey player. And is that related to the different people who are on the ice?
Yeah, partly. But I also think, too, that once Mark signed that long-term extension, he turned to the form where he could be a legacy player. And he knows that, he's having his kind of Steve Yzerman awakening. That was his favorite player as a kid. And the biggest thing for me, Barney, is that he's been able to still be a point-of-game player while not sacrificing on the defensive side. Whereas last year, maybe some people thought he might have cheated for offense a little bit because he thought he had to get paid on the next deal. But this year, he has been the guy who helped drive it. And when your best players are the guys, on the back pressure, on the back check, if you're the 13th forward or the 12th forward, you can be darn sure that you're going to be back checking as hard as you possibly can. But Mark has also come with he's a guy who came into the league with all this passion. You guys know how much he loves the game, loves talking about it, loves playing it. And he's just there's been a freeing element for him after having that security of the long-term deal and knowing that, in all likelihood, he will spend his entire career with the Jets. And absolutely, I think that Connor Hellebuck, it's sort of similar for him. And I think there's kind of a, I'll show the rest of you moment. All we talked about in the summer was, most teams are going to a 1A and 1B scenario. You weren't comfortable giving up the assets to get me or paying me. Well, I'll show you what you're missing. And both those guys have really been at driving force for this group this year for sure. But yeah, Scheifele has definitely been, I wouldn't say a completely different player, but I would say this is the best 200-foot game he's played since coming into the NHL.
Hey, Ken, great stuff, man. Really appreciate the feedback on the Winnipeg Jets. We're looking forward to the game tonight. Thanks for doing this.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys, and enjoy the doubleheader here.
Yeah,
you too. Thanks, Kenny.
Ken Wiebe, covering the Winnipeg Jets. So,
love the commitment to Zoom by our boy Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what was he?
Oh, it was great.
What a guy.
I think they were recording a live game show behind him in the background. I think it was
even
Chunky
phase
from I Think You Should Leave.
Didn't phase him. 1 second.
I absolutely loved his description of Mark Scheifele and the switch and the comparison to Steve Yzerman, understanding that I've got my contract now. So, and then you come in with the numbers that kind of blew me away too.
Yeah.
And you know what my first thought is?
No.
Austin Matthews. When does Austin?
I knew that you were going to bring this up. I knew it.
When does Austin become a legacy player and not a player that's just going after cookies?
If Mark Scheifele became twice as good a defensive player, he wouldn't be close to as good as Austin Matthews is today.
Or offensive, too.
Right. Pick a direction.
Yeah. You want to go either way.
I know your point, though. Your point is just make it the priority. Because I agree shooting the puck in the net is his number one goal.
And he's doing a terrific job of making himself look great, but he's not doing enough to help the rest of the team help him.
Yeah. The Scheifele thing is really fascinating to me, that the plus minus has swung as much as it has. So last year he's 42 goals, minus 16, and a defensive mess, whatever. Can you wrap your head around that just being a mindset switch? Like he really was like, all right, got the contract. Now I can focus on playing hockey better. It's just a crazy concept.
I don't know how you get there. All I know is He's got one of the he's one of the leaders on one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
That's all I know is that they look like a team from top to bottom, and his numbers suggest that I don't need to score 45 or 50.
He's on pace for 27.
I can score 27 and still feel like I'm having a better year based on the success of the team around me.
Yeah.
And that's how legacies grow into, you were a good player, you're a star, but what did you ever win?
He's also committed to being there, right? 8-year deal, which, is something that Austin hasn't done.
He's also
Oh, no?
He's
mentioned.
He's also got a coach behind him that is just known for stifling teams' defense, not giving up a lot of chances. So there's a correlation there. And Austin's got a coach that feels like he needs 3, 4, 5 goals a night to win.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah, as I said to Ken, I thought so. The Jets gave up 4 goals in their first 4 games, 3 or 4 games, and then one other time after that, and then went 34 games not giving up 4 goals. The Leafs have done it 21 times. Can you believe that?
That's just...
But 34 straight games is insanely
insane.
And you know what
so
else is
impressive.
insane? So it's the most in the NHL in the modern era. They were 1 behind the Wild's record of 35, but the Wild set their record in the lowest goal scoring year in the last 20 years.
Yeah, that's what, wasn't it like Jamie Benn was the Art Rossi, like 85 points or something? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So, this is even more impressive to me, and a massive testament to complete game and good goaltending.
And the other one was the Bruins, like in like the 20s.
Yeah.
For like the record.
Yeah, no,
but
wildly good.
It sucks that they lost on an empty netter.
Shouldn't count.
I think it should count.
The
it just
league
sucks.
voids the
It just
goal.
sucks. Yeah. Anyways, I got to read for you guys. From February 1st to the 3rd, all the stars are in Toronto for the NHL All-Star Weekend. We'll be giving away tickets for the different events and episodes today until January 26th. Today we have tickets for the NHL All-Stars competition featuring 12 NHL All-Stars competing in a series of challenges like the Rogers NHL Hardest Shot for a take-home prize of $1 million. To enter for a chance to win, text in today's code word FASTEST to 59590, and we'll have another code word in tomorrow's episode, this time for the Rogers NHL All-Star Game. So be sure to tune in. That code word today is FASTEST.
They really cleaned up the codes ever since we leaned on them about the one, eh?
Yeah, 1967. Well, speaking of 1967, I got a big release from the Leafs about that gala that you were talking about. So, big deal tomorrow. You're going to put on a suit.
Nice.
Are you wearing a 3-piece? What are you doing?
I don't know yet.
Yeah. Fancy it up.
Barely could put something on today.
Got the galoshes on today or what?
It's a horrible day out there.
We got time for a quick Joseph Wall update?
Yeah, let's play that clip. That's perfect. And then we got to go.
All right, clip 3.
No, not necessarily, other than to say he's progressing very well. He's going to remain here and work through our bye week and All-Star break. So he'll remain on the ice. I think the plan or the hope is that once we return, he'll be closer to or ready to join our practices. I would say, though, that him coming back to play after the All-Star break would not be imminent. It would be more so progressing with practices and then testing it and progressing from there. So still quite a ways away from games.
How do you feel Robertson? Cool.
Yeah. I thought we'd see him 2 or 3 games after an All-Star break.
Not anywhere close.
That high ankle sprain on a goalie. Much different.
Oh, boy.
What a wonderful note.
Yeah, and on that note.
Hope you like Sammy.
Yeah. All right, Ken Wiebe, we thank you very much for your time in this hour. And we're only getting started here on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. When we go national, Ian Mendes is going to join us, and we're going to talk a little Ottawa Senators.
Beautiful.
Good job, guys.
I think so.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Thanks, man.
You pacing yourself?
Yeah, I'm all good. Ready to
Got
rock.
another hour to go.
Yes.
We're good.
All right, take a break, everybody. Have a drink, a little snack, and then get your butts right back here for the next hour. All right, let's get her going here. The Real Kyper and Bourne Show. This is the national edition. We are live on Sportsnet, Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. In a few minutes, we'll welcome in Ian Mendes. Covers the Ottawa Senators for The Athletic. Former Sportsnet broadcaster. Shared a few road trips.
A milkshake?
With Ian Mendes.
Straws?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, including New Year's Eve in New York City.
Oh, yeah?
Covering.
You guys go to the ball drop and that Sea of Humanity?
We were close.
Did you? I don't think you'd pay me to be there.
No, you couldn't.
Obviously, we got to touch base on the breaking news of the day, just in terms of, oh, man. 5 players told to surrender in connection with the 2018 World Junior investigation. This was, of course, brought to us by the Globe and Mail. They've been told to surrender in connection with allegations of a sexual assault in June of 2018 to a woman, on a woman by members of the 2018 hockey club. It's been a while, JB, to the point where a lot of people weren't even sure where this investigation was going. A lot of people.
Would there be charges?
Would there be anything at all? It was almost like it was forgotten. And a lot of people thought maybe this thing could actually just disappear.
Mm-hmm.
But that certainly isn't the case today.
Yeah, and I would say in terms of, justice and, the woman involved, I'm glad it didn't disappear. I guess this is the first step towards getting things figured out. There has to be an endpoint at some point, so we got to get started. And, impossible to anticipate where it's going to go from here and the cascading effects of it. But I'm glad to see, they're getting proceedings underway.
Yeah, it's like I heard Merrick say today, it's the end of the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's kind of getting into the meat of it here. The London police, there's a statement from them today too that we understand there's significant public interest in relation to the sexual assault investigations dating back to 2018. While we are unable to provide an update at this time, we anticipate that the London Police Service will hold a press conference on Monday, February 5th, 2024 to share further details. The location and timing of the press conference will be shared once details are confirmed. Thank you for your patience. So that's not this coming Monday. It's the following Monday, the 5th.
Okay. Let's welcome in Ian Mendes, senior writer for The Athletic, based in Ottawa, covering the Senators. Ian, thanks a lot for joining us. I mean, we're going to talk Ottawa Senators, of course, but just in your thoughts, a lot of people have been waiting one way or the other on news or updates. How surprised were you to hear the news that the whole hockey world is hearing today?
Yeah, Kyper, it's as you guys were saying, it has taken a long time, right? It's over 2 years since the kind of around 2 years since this story first broke. And what I find really fascinating is the London Police Department has called that press conference for February the 5th. I can't recall too many instances where somebody calls a press conference for 10 days from now. It's usually a little bit more imminent, right, and pressing. So I think we're all trying to be very cautious, try not to connect the dots as obvious as they may seem with where certain players are, what they might be doing. But it does feel like obviously that there is some sort of break here. And we have to give full credit to Robin Doolittle of the Globe and Mail, who has been all over this story from the get-go. And really, I think there's been so much attention and so much scrutiny, guys, on this story that the London Police Department can't get this wrong. And for people who are saying maybe this took too long, I think they have no margin for error. There's a tremendous amount of scrutiny on this case. There's going to be a lot of questions, regardless of how this turns out. So I think they had to make sure that they were absolutely 1000% sure. And I guess we're going to get some answers on the 5th of February.
Ian, do you think the results of the case matters in terms of NHL fallout, like what happens for these players, or is it just being tied to this at all will have some detriment to their careers? I'm trying to anticipate, what this means for the players involved.
It's a great question, Justin, because I think right now, you have to go with a presumption of innocence of everybody involved, right? I think our judicial system is predicated on that. I think even the National Hockey League, everybody that's involved here, that's what they're going under the assumption. And so what I'm interested, what I think is interesting here, guys, is that there's almost like 3 investigations that are kind of concurrently happening, right? There's the London police investigation, the NHL has had its own investigation, and Hockey Canada has had its own investigation. And I think that the latter two, Hockey Canada and the NHL, are simply waiting to hear what the London Police Department says, right? I don't think the NHL wanted to come out and exonerate anybody, only to have the London Police Department say, actually, they're guilty, right? So I do think that the playing future of any players involved is going to be tied to what comes out of the London Police Department on the 5th of February.
We're talking to Ian Mendes, senior writer for The Athletic. Ian, I know you've got a great rapport with a lot of broadcasters, writers, a lot of them your competitors, but do you have a sense on how big this story is about to get, from a hockey story to a Canadian human interest story to international? Like, what are we in for moving forward when it comes to coverage?
Yeah, Kyper. No, I think it's a significant story, right? Because I think you're talking about some of the dynamics that are so ingrained in Canadian culture, right? There's hockey culture, there's power dynamics, there's money, there's influential people, there's all the elements for, I think, public interest to be at its high point here. And remember, when you go back to the summer of 2022 and you saw all of those sponsors leaving, these were big sponsors, right? These are the Canadian Tires and the Scotiabanks, and like, these are some of the biggest sponsors in Canada with the deepest pockets, saying we're not going to stand by and support this with Hockey Canada. So I think, guys, this thing sort of came in waves, right? And I think the summer of 2022, it was at a high point. It kind of went away. My anticipation is we're about to hit another high point here. And I think all of, Hockey Canada will be in for another reckoning. The players involved will be in a reckoning. There's going to be a lot of questions. And I do think that this is going to be, what did Merrick say? This is the end of the beginning type of thing. And that's probably a good way of phrasing it, is that I do think that we're into the next phase here, and it's going to have a tremendous amount of interest in the public here in Canada.
Well, stick to Ian Mendes and The Athletic. Stick to sportsnet.ca for the latest on this developing story. In the meantime, you had a chance to kind of hang out with new owner Michael Andlauer prior to the Montreal Canadian game. Not often, Ian, that writers or broadcasters get to hang out with owners at any time at all. So I know you wrote about it in The Athletic, but share a little light on that experience.
Yeah, and I had reached out to Michael Andlauer, guys, because last night was his first game in the Bell Center as the owner of the Ottawa Senators, and this is a guy who is a diehard born and bred Montreal Canadiens fan. So not even, like, strip aside the fact that Michael Andlauer was a minority owner of the Montreal Canadiens. This guy grew up as a diehard Montreal Canadiens fan. So last night was the first time he was ever in that building and cheering against the Habs. And so I loved it. So, Michael Andlauer for years, guys, had 3 season tickets right at the corner of the Zamboni at the Bell Center. And obviously when he sold his share of the team and he got rid of those season tickets, he went to Jeff Molson and he said, I got one request. On the night when Ottawa comes back for the first time, I want my old seats back. And so he sat there, and I'm sure if you watched the highlights last night, you would have seen Michael Andlauer on the glass, pounding the glass, celebrating. Those were his old seats that he used to sit in, cheering for the Habs for years. And last night he cheered for Ottawa, and they pulled out the win. So it was a great conversation with him. He was gracious enough on a night where I think he had some emotions going through him to spend some time with me and just kind of walk me through what it's like to be a diehard fan of a team for 50-ish years and then suddenly at the snap of a finger switch allegiances.
Yeah, that's a super uncommon, weird scenario. It's crazy that he would want to do that and follow through, and they did. That's super cool. So give us the status of his team. What's going on? They win a couple of hockey games here. I mean, just what a strange year versus expectations. Where are things at, Ian?
Yeah, it's really crazy the way that this season is gone. And right now they're at a point where they've got 5 of their last 6 points. And this was a really fun trip. I was in Philadelphia for the return of Shane Pinto, and all of the moms were on this trip. And you might have seen some of this kind of going viral. But this is probably the best vibe around this team all season. And yet you still look at the standings and they're in last place, right? In the conference and last place in the division. But it does feel different. There's a little bit more structure. Claude Giroux told us after the game last night, and Jake Sanderson too, that, a few weeks ago, if they were in the lead, they'd get super nervous. And so they'd be up by 1 and all of a sudden they'd squeeze the 6 and the game would get away from them. And that was going on for a long time. And they say that they've been able to calm down a little bit. And I think that there's a little bit of credit that goes to Jacques Martin. His personality is very calming. He's behind the bench. Daniel Alfredsson's been doing a lot too. So I think you're starting to see a little bit of the Jacques Martin, Daniel Alfredsson, kind of their fingerprints on this team. And they're playing good hockey. Now, granted, in the last week or so, they've beaten Montreal twice, San Jose, Philadelphia. So not necessarily the best teams in the league, but they hung tough with Winnipeg on the weekend. They scratched a point out of them. But now you look at the schedule, they got Boston tomorrow and the Rangers on Saturday. So maybe we'll have a better idea if they've actually legit turned a corner by the time they play that game on Saturday.
And where is the fan base? Because there was so much positive vibes with a new ownership group. A new billionaire is going to come in, and we're not going to have to hear nickels and dime stories anymore. And here you are right around Christmas, now the All-Star break, and the sense is that can we get hot? Can we get ourselves back in a race? Or we're in a position where we just got to play 40-plus games thinking that we got to get ready for next season?
Yeah, Kyper, I think it's the latter, to be honest. You can't, and I think if you're a player, you go in with the mindset of, hey, until we're eliminated, we have a chance. But I think from a fan's perspective, the ship has probably sailed. They would need a Hamburglar 2.0 run. The year that Andrew Hammond took them on, he went 20 wins, 1 loss. That's what they would need in order to get back to the playoffs. So I don't see them replicating that. So for the fans, I think they're just looking for some stability. They want to know kind of who can you win with. I do think that there's a feeling that they can't run it back with the same group. You know what I mean? Even if they played really well down the stretch, I think there's been too many years here where this team has lost games to start the year. The act has been the same. So maybe it's time to change one character or two. And I'm not talking about Brady Tkachuk or Timmy Stutzler or Jake Sanderson. I think those guys are untouchable. But I do think that the fans would be open to the idea of, okay, if you play well down the stretch, that's great. But we've learned that doesn't necessarily carry over. I think they'll have a new coach to start next season. And I think maybe a roster move as well. If those two things are done and they look a little bit better down the stretch, I think fans will be happy. I just don't think that there's a playoff spot in the cards for this team.
In talking to a couple of my Senators buddies, their concern is that, you turn it around and you start to win some games. Okay, so you make the draft pick a little bit worse or whatever. But in the process, you trade away guys who help. Like Jacob Chychrun is a name that has come up. Or, we've mentioned Shabbat, not that that's really, just potential, changes they could make. You need good players to win games. And I think the temptation to sell for teams when it's tough to get these guys. What are your thoughts on heading towards the trade deadline, what they will do?
Chychrun to me, and I had a great conversation with Jacob Chychrun in Montreal. And look, guys, I want to say something. He's been really disappointed and hurt. He understands why his name's in the trade rumor mill. Right. Don't get me wrong. He knows, he gets it. He's a smart guy. What he doesn't like is that there's people suggesting that he doesn't like Ottawa. Right. And that he doesn't like being there. So he just wanted to correct that. And he was pretty adamant that, look, I love it in Ottawa. I'm living 5 minutes from my sister, 10 minutes from my grandpa. This is an awesome setup for me. I love it. So that part of it notwithstanding, I do think where it's going to be interesting for Steve Staios and Dave Poulin is they have 3, and not to get too into the weeds here, but they have 3 left shot defensemen, all of whom are kind of premium players. You're paying $8 million to Jake Sanderson, $8 million to Thomas Shabbat, and Jacob Chychrun has a year and a bit left at 4.6. And theoretically, he's going to need more money right? So
Yep.
can you guys think of a team in the NHL that pays 3 defensemen $8 million each and they all play on the same side?
Okay, Ian, hold on for a second though. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but like, I know it was Pierre Dorian that traded for him, but we all saw that coming. So, like, what was he thinking?
Yeah, it's a great question, Kyper. And the thought was one of them would play on their offside. Be it, and I think the feeling was Chychrun. It just hasn't worked. Shabbat and Chychrun have played together. It hasn't been a great pairing. Sanderson's been good with Artem Zub, but they just it feels like almost the old square peg round hole with Chychrun. But somebody's got to go, and I'm not saying it's Chychrun. I'm just saying somebody amongst that group of left-handed shots is probably going to have to go, and I'm not moving Jake Sanderson if I'm Steve Staios.
Yeah, it kind of puts you in a little bit of a logjam there. You talk about not being able to really look at this as a year you make a push for playoffs or whatever, and that's really unfortunate because I believe they have enough talent there to have done more than they did. Did they wait too long to make the coaching move? And to add on to that, is there any chance they don't change the coaching staff that they have in there now?
Yeah, the hindsight is 2020, right? But I think what's frustrating for Ottawa fans, guys, is that the story of this season in October, November, that was the story of last season and the season before and the season before that. Like every year, this team would come out and they'd win 4 of their first 15 games. They'd submarine their playoff chances right away. Then they would play really well. So this year, when they did the same thing and they face planted out of the gate, I do think that there was an appetite from the fan base to change it out. Where I think there was an issue was that Mike Andlauer and Steve Staios felt like they just showed up the first week of October. They were trying to just dip their foot into the pool, so to speak. And Ottawa fans were like ready for the cannonball in the middle of the pool. So there was a disconnect there. And finally we got to the middle of December and it became the situation was untenable for DJ Smith moving forward. The fan base was all over him. There was a lot of problems. So they had to let him go. But in hindsight, yes, I think all things being equal, if Mike Andlauer took over the team in June, I think maybe he would have a little bit more of a chance to come in and, say, I'm going to make some changes and do what I wanted to do. But he didn't really have that opportunity. And he waited for 2 months into the season. And unfortunately for Ottawa fans, they've seen that movie, 3 or 4 years in a row.
And where would this team be if they just had better goaltending? That's it.
Fair.
Yeah. You know what? I bet you if you injected DJ Smith, actually, you probably wouldn't have to inject him with truth serum. You could probably just ask him off the record. DJ, what's the biggest reason why you're out of a job right now? I think he would say goaltending. And that's where I will defend him. He's got a lot of people that have said he ran a loose program and he didn't hold people accountable and whatever. But boy, oh boy, he just didn't get help from goaltending. And it's part of the problem. And you're getting an 880 save percentage, I think, on most nights when he was there. That's not good enough to win. Korpisalo's been a lot better lately. But yeah, absolutely. And I think the issue too for DJ Smith, if you go through his tenure, like they had Matt Murray, they had Phil Gustafson, they had Cam Talbot, they had now it's Korpisalo. It's not like they just had one goalie. It's like 5 or 6 goalies struggled right under the system. And at some point you have to say, okay, let's change out the coach. But yeah, absolutely. I think goaltending was a huge factor.
Okay, just one more on the goaltending. There's only one that had signed a 5-year, $4 million contract. It's like that contract ain't going away anytime soon here. So is he playing now for the thought that you could still be our guy come next October?
Isn't it remarkable that 3 months into his 5-year deal, we're having this conversation? And I'm not going to suggest that this is like Jack Campbell,
but it
Jack
can
Campbell,
be.
But it could be a little bit. Yeah, absolutely, it could be. It could be. I don't think they're at that point yet, but he's been up and down. But again, that's also a function of the team has been up and down in front of him, and he's looked a lot better in the last week or so. And the team has looked a lot better. So there's absolutely some room. And look, the cap hit is $4 million. It's not 5. It's not 5.5. But still, I think if you went back to July 1st and you ask people, what was the contract that made your eyes pop out the most? I think the term on Korpisalo was the one for a lot of people. And it was a gamble. It was a risk. And so far it hasn't looked good, but he has played a lot better here in the last week or so.
It was a gamble. I was going to ask you about Shane Pinto. I didn't even mean to do that. I swear. Okay. Anyway, so he's come back for 2 games. He's been very good. I think, you would expect. What have you seen out of him through 2 games, and where does that go? Is this a guy that they'll want to see a run of games from before they sign his next contract, or would that be underway already?
Well, I think they had talks like in talking to Shane, it sounded like they discussed the idea of longer term, whatever. But I think for the here and now, he was like, I just want to get up and running. Let's just do the 1-year deal. But this is going to be really interesting. We talked about a logjam for Ottawa on defense. They also have an interesting situation at center ice where Tim Stützle is they're locked in number 1 guy, but they got Norris, they got Pinto, they got Ridley Gregg. Like, those are 4. They've never really had a stretch of games with all 4 of those guys in the lineup. And what do the puzzle pieces look like? So I'm curious, like, if you're Pinto, if you sign a long-term deal, my guess is they're paying you to only be a number 3 center, right? Mm-hmm. Because Norris and Stützle are ahead of you. If you're Pinto, do you want to pigeonhole yourself into that? That's what I would wonder. So he's looked really good, guys. He's so responsible defensively. The kid's only played 100 games in the NHL. He is a really smart 200-foot player, always supporting the play, always just the right place, the right time, wins faceoffs. He's your prototypical 2-3 centerman. And I just don't know where all the puzzle pieces fit. But the irony in all of this is Ottawa's capped out. They have no, real farm system, and they're not in a playoff spot. Like, it's kind of nuts when you think about it in the big picture. But they were able to get Pinto in without having to do too many cap gymnastics there.
Ian, as far as Staios is concerned, he's not scared at all to tell anybody that he'd like to kind of shake it up. He's looking for something that can just maybe jolt this team into something that could get out of the gate real strong next October. So you tell me who that is. There's a lot of young pieces here, and some of them are making really good money, but if there was one that could move, who would you trade? Would you move, Batherson? Would you move Norris? Like, who are we talking about to jolt?
Yeah, and like I said, I wouldn't move Stützle, I wouldn't move Tkachuk, and I wouldn't move Sanderson. Like, those, for me, if I'm in Steve Staios' chair, those are my untouchables. Batherson at $4.9 million, when he's playing well, it's a really good contract. He's super skilled guy. When he's going at under $5 million, he gives you top 6 production. I'd be hesitant to trade him based on the cap hit. To me, it comes down to Chabot and Chychrun. It really does. Like, to me, that's the conundrum. That's the room. And they have to make a decision. And this is where I think Steve Staios and Dave Poulin are in an advantageous situation. They can make a move here with either of those guys or any guy. They're not emotionally attached to anybody. They didn't sign any of these guys. They didn't draft any of these guys. They didn't trade for anybody. As you guys know, general managers, you can sometimes you almost get guilty of falling in love with players when you draft them and you sign them and you become emotionally invested. Steve and Dave are not invested emotionally in any of these guys. But if you're asking me, I think it comes down to those two, and they have to make an organizational decision. Do they see Chychrun as their guy or Chabot as their guy? And if the answer is one or the other, you trade him this summer. Chabot, by the way, guys, has a no-trade clause that kicks in July 1st.
Ooh, something to watch for.
Yeah.
Hey, Ian, great stuff, man. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Just prior to you coming on, I told the guys that we kind of hung out with each other every once in a while here at Sportsnet. And
New Year's Eve.
Well,
listen,
you always had that night.
When I was in the mix with my group to buy the Ottawa Senators, Ian put out a story about me and him where I bought him lunch New Year's Day, and he told this story. And I just want to say in the future, do not tweet anything that remotely describes me as being nice. Please. You're ruining my reputation.
I'm
evolving.
You're one of the nice guys, and you know it, and everyone knows it. That's worked with you. So,
hey, Ian, great stuff, man. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it, man.
You got it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Wow, that's good stuff right there on the Ottawa Senators. Just in terms of what would you do?
Well,
Steve Staios.
You know, I am a believer in a lot of the players in Ottawa. I really love watching Stützle play. Love Brady Tkachuk. I like a lot of what they have. I don't think trading Jacob Chychrun helps you. The Chabot thing's interesting. I understand what he's talking about with, a lot of money on one side of your D.
I don't know, man. It's just losing environments lead to bad choices.
Yeah, totally.
And it's a losing environment. They've been losing for a long time. And one of those guys goes, they're all really good.
I never.
How do you replace?
I never understood Pierre Dorian's push for Chychrun when you had Sanderson, Chabot, like Ian said, three guys that kind of play a similar type of role.
Yeah,
and
on the same side.
It reminded me exactly of San Jose going and getting Erik Karlsson.
Yeah, when you had Brent Burns.
When you had Brent Burns leading the way. So it's a chemistry thing.
I think a lot of this,
That's a good comparison, Kip. You bring in a guy that's the exact same thing. What are the guys thinking?
And, maybe the thinking is, hey, we could trade this guy if we had to again or something. But, maybe the more I think about it, Chychrun does make sense for them.
Chabot and Chychrun, they both want the puck.
Yeah.
They both want to go. It's like
both top power play unit kind of guys.
Yeah.
It's a chemistry thing. It's not a talent thing.
Ottawa's close, man. For a team that's dead last.
I would say they're not close.
I don't look at Columbus or San Jose or Chicago and go, a couple pieces.
We'll talk about Columbus a little bit more in news and notes with their loss to the Edmonton Oilers last night. But I don't hate the Jackets.
Jackets are dusty.
They got some guys. Anyways, you want to do some game time?
Some guys.
They got game time? It's game time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. So a couple of them I'm looking at tonight. If you like the Winnipeg Jets in this game, they're undermanned. Obviously, Scheifele's out. Plus 125. Leafs are huge favorites on home ice. Minus 150.
Planet.
Leafs are minus
Really?
150.
Are the Leafs
Leafs are
favorites?
favorite.
Big, minus 150. Pretty sizable favorite.
Are they still favorites to win the Stanley Cup?
No, I can check who's still favorite. I don't know I can check the favorite on that.
A gambling mind, you wouldn't bet $1 on the Leafs in that game.
So they're minus 150. I would recommend that. They could obviously win, but it's not a good number.
But just getting
great.
Jets as underdog.
Great value on the Jets, who are one of the best teams in the league, coming in Toronto, who love playing in Toronto. And one of the other ones I'm looking at here, where did I have it? I like the Boston Bruins against the Carolina Hurricanes on home ice. Loved the way the Bruins looked the other night against the Jets. I just think they're just humming along again. They look so good. Still not sold in Carolina. They're minus 140, not that huge a number, but I don't usually take favorites like that, but I do like the Bruins a lot on home ice tonight.
Carolina had a goalie. Did they claim Spencer Martin? Was that them that did that?
And your answer, Kyper, for who do you think the favorite for the Stanley Cup is according to Bet365?
Yes, they did claim Spencer Martin.
Okay.
Last time I got it right, it was Vegas. Was I? No?
I think it's the Edmonton Oilers.
Have you looked?
Have they snuck in there?
The Edmonton Oilers are the favorite to win the Stanley Cup at plus 750. You obviously have
never
to,
seen a turnaround.
You
like this.
obviously have to take in some, hey, they're hot right now. Let's get your money kind of thing. It's all top of mind. But for them to put that at plus 750 is crazy. And guess who the second favorite is?
Not the Leafs.
Vancouver.
Yeah, I was going to say Vancouver.
The top two favorites are Vancouver and Edmonton. Boston's plus 850, and then you have the Jets at 9-1. So in the top three favorites according to Bet365, in the top four favorites according to Bet365, three of them are Canadian teams.
What are the Leafs?
The Leafs are down the list, fellas, plus 1,700.
Jeff 5 there, Colorado or Dallas?
Colorado is plus 900. Dallas is 10-1, Kip.
All right.
So, there you go. I'm looking down. There's not a ton of value outside of that. It really...
Can I tell you my theory on these Stanley Cup bets? Is that you don't tend to get a ton more value by placing these bets early. Like going into playoffs, you'll still get comparable odds generally.
Mhm.
So I tend to wait on that.
And just at the President's Trophy favorites too, the Boston Bruins at plus 275, Canucks plus 350, and Jets plus 400. So there you go for the President's Trophy.
All righty.
And that was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get into some news and notes, including expansion.
What?
Yes.
What?
I'm telling you.
No way.
There's just so many good players in the league. I think we need another team.
It is out there.
Buddy, you're up.
It
You're
is.
next in.
The talk is out there.
Let me tell you, from a guy who played at the East Center in Salt Lake City, I got thoughts.
Oh,
You've got thoughts. All right. There's Gerard Gallant thoughts. There's the Oilers and their record-breaking goaltender, Skinner. There's the Calgary Flames, their playoff aspirations.
Bad L last night for them.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
No, not yet. But
Not yet.
good.
Okay.
Let's do
Plenty
the show
more.
after the break.
Plenty more after the break. Listen to these commercials so we can pay our bills. And we're back after this. The Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. We're talking expansion.
Why?
Because the Utah Jazz owner expressed a desire for the NHL to bring a team to Utah.
So you can just do that?
I don't.
I'm going to go be like, yeah, I don't know anything, but I desire another one in Toronto.
All
Is that
right.
allowed? I do. Yeah. How about, the West End Weapons play at Rennie Park.
I'm just thinking out loud here. Like, let's play did you ever notice, game, that, like, I don't know, is it a coincidence that this story's out the same day that,
Listen, I'm glad you said it.
let's be honest here.
Great
right?
observation.
Hockey Canada stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
glad you said it.
Is it a coincidence?
Because people are saying it, so I'm glad that's being represented here. However, it can be other things are happening at the same time.
For sure.
Like, I don't
But
think
maybe.
it's impossible that like this news, it's just news that came out in the same day.
I think it's an excellent theory, Kipper. How's that
Do
sound?
you?
That you're right.
It's just a crazy tinfoil hat, like to be like, all right, news is coming out. We need something. What do we got? Expansion in Salt Lake City. Like, there's got to be meat to this.
You got to dig up a better story than that to cover something up like what's going on. Like, it's not, no one cares about
I'm not a
expansion.
conspiracy theorist. Can't do it.
All right. I think there's.
No,
truth to it.
listen, it's coming.
What
It's
is it?
real.
Expansion?
Yes. Oh, they're going to 34 teams.
Ugh.
They can't. There's
Yeah,
not
they
enough
can.
good players. There's not enough good players. And you know what? Fans can't even
Listen.
follow the league anymore. You can't have 500 teams.
They're going to send scouts to Sammy's games now.
Who are
But
the Zags?
It,
We picking
it
up
doesn't matter.
Matty Hughes can fly.
Matty Hughes. You can play the West End
He
Weapons.
can fly.
They don't care about how
Quality
great
of the product.
Listen, you're going to find players to play. And it might be on some nights. It might not be very pretty to watch, but
I'd have had a
they
chance.
want. We're talking about
The owners want
over
the money.
$2 billion on the table
for
to
two more
split
teams.
against to split it with 32 teams.
Kip, you'd have played second line at least your whole career in a 34-team league.
Yeah, the building might have been empty, but I wouldn't care.
No. You'd be making that second line money.
But
17 goals in a 21-team league. You'd be a rich man.
if only there was a semi-failing hockey team that played in a college arena that
Yeah,
they
that you
can't
could
find a
move
rink
somewhere.
that you could move to Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
If only they were one
Great-
like that.
Great observation.
I got to tell you, I think players would be falling all over themselves to go play in Salt Lake City.
Really?
Really?
Well, I mean, it's
Isn't it a kind of a dry place?
well, it depends if you like to have fun or not. If you're a family man, you'd love to live there.
Buddy, listen, I just went and watched a hockey game in Vegas.
Yeah.
I'd like to play there, please.
Yeah, well, young guy, I can see
Yeah,
that
yeah.
for sure. You know, when I was in Utah, you have to be a member at the bar to enter it. So you have to pay like your $10 membership fee to get a card or whatever. You can't order a double. Like, so they give you a sidecar of alcohol to pour in your own drink, and the bars close at 10
So
or 11.
Who wants to play there? Slavin?
No, that's the thing is that it's not for partiers, but for a family man, what a great place to live. It's beautiful.
So you
It's
got to have a
all-
high character team.
So
to play
what
there.
you're saying is this team will have 23 35-year-olds.
And Vegas is going to have 35 23-year-olds? Does that work? Yes.
Pretty much.
I'm telling you, it's a great family environment.
But I don't mind. I really don't mind Salt Lake City as a, hey, let's try it. Like the Atlanta thing to me is the most offensive thing ever.
They're building an arena.
No more arenas.
No, it's coming.
Stop that.
It's coming.
Stop.
One more thing on Salt Lake City.
I'm starting to believe Atlanta's coming back.
Oh,
I suppose it's Salt Lake City, second most sunny days of any city in the U.S. outside Phoenix. Arena in Atlanta? Do you think Atlanta's real?
It's coming.
So Salt Lake and Atlanta?
Well,
what was that you said there?
I don't know. Houston.
Second most sunny days per year. In Salt Lake City.
What?
The sunny place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
The city of Houston's
In the
name
US,
is out there as well. So to your point, do you move Arizona up to Utah and then slide in 2 more teams?
Oh my God.
What?
So we're going to trade Arizona to Utah. We're going to add Atlanta, and then we're going to add
Houston.
Quebec City can just go kick rocks.
Can I not to get the great observation drop ready again here, but like, if only there was a country just north of America that really loved this sport.
No, you know what I heard?
What would that be like? More teams in that country?
I had heard that like the league looks at Canada and says, we've got 7, and we only have 25 in the U.S.
And
they don't think 25 is enough to cover the U.S.
So what about the second team in Toronto theory, which we've kicked around a little bit in the past?
Yeah, that'll come
That's
around.
Team 35, you think?
We don't know where a few other teams might be in the equation either by then, but we're talking about something that might be, I don't know, 2 or 3 years from deciding. But yeah, it's out there because we've got this question mark on what the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to look like in 2 or 3 years with ownership between Bell and Rogers.
Yeah.
If there's a potential split down the road, then you start trading pieces.
Yeah.
Does one end up with the Leafs and the other one says, okay, maybe a second team? Does a side go, can we have a baseball team too in Montreal?
So
you look at like Bell getting their own versions of whatever.
Yeah.
Got 2 great texts contributing to this, which I love. Said, I hope Atlanta comes back to the NHL. It's the only way Quebec City will ever get a team when Atlanta inevitably moves.
That's good.
Right?
Good point.
Good.
And George Oakville says, but what about a tiering like a Premiership league?
Yeah.
24 in one.
Yeah.
And a bunch in the other.
Just so sold. You couldn't sell me harder on that.
Like it's still the
League would
NHL.
never do it.
It's still the NHL.
Yeah.
But there's tier 1, tier 2.
Yeah, listen,
so
in 3 or 5 years, like who knows what this league's
You
going
have
to
2
look like.
leagues, easy.
Yeah.
One
that's
good
what
one,
the
one
American
bad
League's
one.
supposed to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I guess you're right.
You just need to relegate San Jose and call up, quick Google, good American League team X.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know who they are.
Peoria still have a team?
Definitely not.
Okay. What's the Sound Tigers? Do they still have a
Bridgeport
team?
Sound Tigers.
Yeah, call
I
them
play
up.
for them, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Alberta. Where do you guys want to go, Edmonton or Calgary?
I think we should probably talk about Edmonton winning 14 games in a row.
Yeah, it's impressive.
I will say Columbus took it to them for 2 periods.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have anything. And then Columbus did what they always do in the 3rd period, and they blew it. But I came away from watching that game, and I watched them play the Leafs earlier in this year a couple times. They're not that far away from being a competitive team, Columbus. Like, they have some players in that team that are really – that Fantilli is unbelievable.
Just stop it for a second.
I know.
What?
I know.
Okay.
They play.
Everyone has a couple.
Can we see if the current players still want to be there in 2 years?
Johnny Gaudreau is having a down year, but he doesn't suck. He had moments in that game. Like, I'm telling you, they're not terrible.
We can't go.
Boone Jenner's a hard guy to play against.
3 steps without hearing another player wants to leave the Columbus Blue Jackets.
I just don't think they suck that bad.
Counterpoint, yes, they do.
Okay. They can play. They can score. They have offensive talent. They're a flashy, fun team to watch.
Your tier 2 NHL
for sure.
in a few years.
For sure.
Yeah,
okay.
They could be the 25th best team.
I've watched them a few times this year, and I've been impressed with their talent.
I know. I'm being unnecessarily ridiculous. I like Voronkov. I think he's a good young player, and then Chinnikov's all right too. But I just feel like everyone has a couple guys. That's all.
Fantilli should be Rookie of the Year. He's amazing.
He is really.
Should
amazing.
we be talking about Stu Skinner and his turnaround since they sent Jack Campbell to the minors?
What do they
and
just
now
unplug him and plug him back in? Like what
just-
happened?
Breaking Grant Fuhr records and
11 straight wins for Skinner.
Yeah.
Which breaks Fuhr's record. Wow.
I don't know. That's one of the more inexplicable things ever. He was dreadful at the start of the year.
I can't believe Jack Campbell hasn't got another sniff.
I don't know. I haven't checked in on his game logs in the
I've
minors.
heard he's playing well.
Really?
Yes.
So, but if I'm them, I ain't screwing with this.
No.
Like I guess you could call him up to be the backup goalie and play him the same amount you play Pickard or whatever, if that's how you want to do it. But you don't doing anything. Well, I guess they just signed Corey Perry. So, but you don't want to do anything to upset this streak.
Yeah.
But man,
Let me give you Jack Campbell's last 4 games. 939, 944, 941, 931.
those are
Last
quite quality numbers.
4 AHL starts.
Yeah.
Gotta get Jack back in the league.
Yeah. What's the rush? Skinner is he kept them in that game. That could have been 6-1 in the second period. He was really, really good.
Dude, he looks so good against the Leafs. He made
What
some
do the Oilers have on tap here to close out?
They go to Chicago, comes there, and then they play Nashville, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got it. So both at home.
Both at
Chicago
home.
and Nashville at home.
There's a real good chance this thing can keep going here.
Yeah.
And can we not have the All-Star break?
Yeah, they would love to keep going. I guess Corey Perry will get in conceivably the Saturday night before the All-Star break against the Predators.
Imagine they lose that one first game.
Yeah. Imagine.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can see it.
The Calgary Flames. That's a tough pill to swallow. Blowing a lead.
It is.
And listen, it's got to be inevitable now, just in terms of what pieces you want to move off of. But they got to prep now.
Think so?
Yeah.
I mean, the West is almost set. Basically a little battle for Arizona and St. Louis, maybe Seattle to try to find their way in there. But, the Flames they're lagging a bit here. And if they are going to make moves, I mean, you should kind of sooner the better, right?
Yeah, that one hurt.
Yeah, against a team that you're kind of in the hunt with there.
Directed with, yeah.
Where are you on Noah Hannafin in Calgary? Do you sign him or you do not sign him?
So I'm a big, I don't believe in tanking outright. And I think he's a really good player. I think you do sign him. I would love to see teams say, we don't want to give Noah Hannafin 8 years. He thinks he's worth 7 or 8 million. We're going to give him 9 million times 5 or something.
Ooh.
I'm just saying keep a guy,
Yeah, I know.
but not give him an 8-year contract like they tend to do with everyone.
But in this case, it might be okay. And I only say that because I think he's one of the younger UFAs.
Yeah.
It's not like he's 30.
No, he was Marner's draft, right?
Yeah, that's who I wanted them to take.
So it's not crazy. It's hard to believe, but he's just 26 years old.
Is he 26?
Yes. So even if you gave him an 8-year deal,
You're right.
it's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
and you need,
in that case,
to your
you're right.
point, you need players. You need them. And he is a legit 20-minute muncher.
And what do you think the career peak age-wise of defensemen is? I bet you don't think it's younger than 26.
I would say probably hitting their stride around 27, 28
Yeah.
would be exactly the point.
So if you're placing the bet on getting the prime of Hannafin's career for $8 million bucks, I'd make that bet.
And he's, like I said, he's 26 now. He fits into the younger mold still of your next up-and-comers.
Yeah, I'm going to take that back on Hannafin. That was a bad contract by me. I've been fired by myself, and I'm hiring Nick Kypreos. Yeah, he's a good guy to give 8 years to, after all.
I'm going to sell you some swampland.
I'm convincible. That's my strength. Is I listen, change my opinion.
All right.
I don't have a great feel for Hannafin's game, really. He's never been obviously he's a pretty good NHLer. He's been around a while. He's just, to me, I would be scared to give him a long contract. It's not going to kill you, but he just.
Listen, I think he's one of those guys where you can safely say that he'll never win a Norris.
Yeah.
So don't pay him like he's going to win a Norris. Right. And there is a group of guys that we say are still good. But, and Morgan Riley may be one of those guys in Toronto. And here he is the number one guy. Mm-hmm. But do you believe that Morgan Riley has ever a chance to win a Norris? Maybe if the stars are aligned, but he's got to be surrounded by some Eagles that can really soar around him on that blue line.
Yeah.
I think
Hanifin has all the tools. I don't think he has the hockey IQ to be quite that level. Right.
I think Morgan Riley's better than Hanifin, though.
Yes, I do too.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. I'm with you. But
I understand the comparison.
I don't know what skills contest event he would win against Hanifin.
I've got Jacob Chikrin in Ottawa right now in the same place as I do Hanifin, where, listen, you can find some warts in his defensive game, but the guy's going to play 20 minutes, 22 minutes every night for the next 5-7 years.
Dying to get good D.
And the big thing for Calgary and Ottawa, well, I mean, not Ottawa, but Calgary is if you let him walk out the door when he leaves, like, who's coming back in and taking those 22 minutes? And how much do you have to pay that guy?
Have to pay the next guy $5-6 million anyway to get less than you were going to get from Hanifin.
So take him.
I'm sure that's where Calgary is at, that they would. It's just if I'm Hanifin and I look at where the group is at and where it's going, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about Calgary.
And we've heard sometimes he wants to sign there. Sometimes he doesn't want to sign there.
Yeah.
He's American. Does he want to go back home? Does he not? But like anything else, throw him a number. 50 million, 55, and now you get him to start picking the contract and not the city.
Yeah. No, I like that too. And there is a couple $1 million that change a lot of minds. So pay him a couple extra.
Mrazek got paid now. The latest in the line of
what do you get?
Yeah, I think 4.25 for two years.
Not per year.
Yeah, per year.
This guy has to have made the most money of a not good NHL goalie the last 5 years.
Listen, they're just overpaying. He's never going to get that anywhere else in the league. 4.5 for 2 years.
Sorry, it's a 2-year, $8.5 million contract, so 4.25 per year.
He's never going to get 4.25 anywhere else.
So are they just anticipating sucking for 3 more years? Like they're just going to waste these years of Bedard?
2 more years of suckage seems to be the commitments.
That's and we're overpaying for 2 years.
That's the Foligno contract. That's Mrazek.
That's wrong to me. That's wrong.
They're saying to Bedard, here's where we're at for 2 more years. We're doing the salary floor thing.
How many years did the Penguins suck with Sid?
Couldn't have been more than 1.
Yeah. Oilers sucked for a while.
Matthews' rookie year, didn't they make the playoffs?
They did make the playoffs. I just think, like, I'm watching it with Wembanyama in the NBA, where
what do they have, 6 wins now?
Spurs are awful. Yeah. Like, they're unwatchable, terrible team, and they surrounded them with nothing. It's like, you don't want to waste years of Bedard, where it's
help him get better.
Help him get better. Like, put some guys around him. You're just admitting you're going to stink for a couple of years. I don't know. It's a bad look to me.
All right, 7 games on tap, including Winnipeg, Toronto, and Vancouver. 3 Canadian teams. Give me a score. Winnipeg and Toronto, boys.
Leafs are going to find a way to get it to overtime and then have their hearts broken. 4-3.
Oh, they get back in the beloved loser point category?
4-3.
Yeah.
You're giving 3 against 3.
But not 4.
But not 4 against Alabama.
Winnipeg.
Sammy?
3-2 Jets. All right. Regulation.
Vancouver, St. Louis?
Vancouver wins
15-0.
All right, pick your game. Watch it, enjoy it, because you know where you're going to find us. Same time tomorrow on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Our thanks to Ian Mendes, Ken Wiebe. Great stuff. And if you get a chance, give us a rating and review. We'd love to hear from you. We're back again tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.